Hey everybody, it's Mash here, Two Stupid Gamers, and we got another video today. So we're definitely going to be doing a lot more race sim content on the channel going forward. It's kind of my thing, and I wanted to make a couple videos about that. But before we get into it, I first want to take an opportunity to show off my race sim rig. You know, we've talked about it here and there, and I had a couple of chances to unbox some of this stuff, but for the most part, I have a full video just showing off everything that I use for race sim, and I thought, hey, you guys might want to check that out. I just wanted to explain a couple of things. So firstly, all of my stuff now is on the chair attached to it, so I'm not going to be able to show off the product individually, but I will do a couple of close-ups so that you guys could see what I'm talking about and I can show off different things. You know, the way that I have it set up currently is really for my convenience, and because of that, I don't take the equipment off of the chair anymore. You could see some of it in the shot right now. Also, I'm really sorry in advance if anything is dusty. Like I said, this stuff just stays on the chair, so I don't really have a lot of time to dust it, and yeah, I mean, it just gets used a lot. It still gets dusty. Again, sorry if it looks bad. Anyway, this has already gone on too long. I'm gonna just get right into showing you guys what I race with. Okay, so very first up, the main piece that we have is the Thrustmaster T150. This is the PlayStation edition, as you can see by the PlayStation logo on the front. This is an entry-level wheel, and that doesn't necessarily mean that it's bad. It's just that this is a very good starter wheel, but of course that means it's going to have some limitations. It's not going to be as good as the high-end. This is a belt, I believe, driven wheel. I'll put that in post to correct it if I'm wrong, but it's something like a belt driven wheel. And the force feedback on this is not bad. I like using this a lot more than like the crappy arcade game wheels that you have for Initial D or Outrun or something. It's definitely a lot better than that. I know that there's going to be a lot more low-end options as well that this is better than, but just the feel of the wheel has kind of bugged me out lately, especially since when we went to PAX, I got to try a direct drive wheel, just kind of like the next step. Not only do those wheels just feel nicer because they're of a higher budget, they're higher build quality, the force feedback really makes you appreciate how much it feels like a real wheel. This, although it has some decent force feedback, now today, after trying direct drive, feels to me like plastic. Hunky plastic, and I really want to upgrade one day. It's just racing wheel stuff is really expensive. A couple things to note about this. So I just added a little bit of tape here to kind of let myself know about the center. This wheel only goes around so many times. I think it's 900 degrees of motion or something like that. So if you go all the way to one end, it stops. And then you go all the way to the other end, it will eventually hit a stop as well. Some of the more high-end wheels, or even some wheels maybe in this category, I'm not 100% sure, but other wheels will actually let you spin infinitely, which I think is cooler, especially for something like drifting, but not such a big deal. That was actually one of the selling points on the box. They mentioned that this has that much degree of rotation, so I'm assuming that some wheels in this category at the time had even less degree of rotation. This was actually something we unboxed a million years ago on the channel. I'll definitely put the video in the description and somewhere in the video here as well. You can check that out if you want. Granted, it's a very old video. It's my first piece of racing sim equipment, so I don't know exactly what I was talking about, but there you go. Another thing I did, because this has little paddle shifters on the back, I was always confused when I was spinning the wheel, especially while I was drifting, which end is which, without having to look down at the tape, without having to look down at the wheel itself. And I actually put a piece of grip tape from my skateboard on the back on one side so I knew which was the downshift, and the other side is untaped, so that side, when I felt it, I knew was an upshift. It's going to be really hard to see, but the connection point that I have for this wheel to this race rig, I actually went out online and I bought a custom 3D printed mount to help get the wheel onto whatever rig I have, because unfortunately they use like non-standard bolting for the wheel, so it does not actually work with a lot of chairs. I don't remember the process I had trying to get this one in, but I know that others have had issues where they did have to drill holes, and that kind of sucks because Thrustmaster is supposed to be a great brand, so they definitely should always be using industry standard configurations for where the bolts are supposed to go. I've heard some horror stories of people trying to correct this issue or go to Thrustmaster directly for help, and usually the answer is that you do have to buy some kind of modded device to help get your race wheel onto the actual component. Not the best thing for Thrustmaster, but whatever. I paid for it, I got it, and it's been sitting on this race rig pretty smoothly, so I don't even think too much about it. Just in hindsight, like maybe they could change that going forward. Overall, this is a very cool starter wheel. It does have a good feel, and I've definitely put a lot of mileage on it, so you know it has the MASH approval. It's just, at this point, I definitely would like to get an upgrade. Okay, so now we have the shifter. This is the THA Thrustmaster add-on shifter, and I gotta say, this is definitely a high-quality product. Getting this was fantastic. It was way better than using the paddle shifters on the wheel. You get 8 different options, gears 1 through 7, and reverse, and of course neutral as well. One thing I like about it right off the bat is the bracket. It's just a clamp that you squeeze onto the part of the race sim. You also get a second plate as well in case you wanted to do sequential shifting. So instead of all the numbers plus reverse, you would just do up or down, which is really cool too. I don't use it enough. I feel like that's only really useful for rally racing, sometimes for sim racing, specifically with drifting. But for the most part, I just have it on these. And yeah, I love this. I love this thing. One thing I didn't like when I got this was that for some reason there's this huge ugly sticker on here. It was like a warning. And when I tried to peel it off, it left all of this glue residue. So unfortunately now this just looks pretty gross. I was thinking about putting something on here, like maybe a sticker that kind of fits here, but I never had the time to do that. So instead I just have this gross mess on the shifter. But otherwise, overall, I have no complaints about this shifter. It feels great. I love the way that shifting feels on it. I feel like it's improved my ability to shift the correct gear almost every time. But yeah, so I enjoy this. This is one of the best products that I have on this racing rig. And so you can see here that I have another piece of modified equipment on this racing chair that is actually right next to the Thrustmaster shifter. That is a mouse pad. Now the reason I have this is just because when I'm sitting in my chair over here, it's kind of hard to stream and use my computer at the same time, which you definitely need if you're going to do iRacing. So I got this, very cheap on Amazon. Again, I like that it has a good mounting point, so I could very easily put onto a chair setup somewhere, and I could just use my mouse here. So it makes it easier for streaming. I was always reaching over and it was very annoying, but now I don't really have to do that anymore because of this. So very cool. Nothing like name brand. It's just a cheap Amazon mouse pad, but it definitely did the trick. Okay, so now we have come to the last major component of the race wheel that's on the actual chair itself, and that is going to be the Thrustmaster TLCM pedals, which basically means these are load cell pedals, and I'll explain that more in just a little bit. But this is the last piece of Thrustmaster equipment that I have, finishing out my trifecta of the wheel, the shifter, and then now these. Real quick before I talk about these pedals, I just want to point out the fact that you have to be very careful when you're choosing your racing sim equipment because sometimes the compatibility doesn't match up. Now, I just so happen to get all Thrustmaster stuff, which is good for me if I ever want to use this on PC, PS4. They all work together, so I shouldn't have too many issues. But if you get, for instance, Fanatec pedals with Thrustmaster wheel, Thrustmaster shifter, they might not necessarily match up. So you want to be very careful taking a look at the different inputs and outputs that some of these products have and looking at compatibility information online. It actually reminded me a lot when I was looking for Rock Band equipment because I wanted to play Rock Band again, and not everything worked with the PS4 or the PS3, etc. So there are very specific peripherals that were going to work for me that may not work for someone else. Now, the pedals themselves are great. It was a huge step up from the pedals that I was using before, which were essentially just plastic. They came with the starter set for the wheel, But most importantly, the reason I really got these was because I just needed a 3-pedal setup. I was looking at other options, but my friend Paul let me know that, hey, if you're gonna get a 3-pedal setup, you might as well also get a load cell pedal, because the load cell has additional feedback that you can't get with some of the lower level pedals that are out there. Right here on the back, you can actually see these pedals, and if you have a lower level pedal than this, even compare what you're getting to what you already have. I mean, these are very thick, you know, instruments right here for pressing in the gas and the brake, and it all feels really good. But the real meat and potatoes of this is actually this right here. This is the load cell. So I don't have all of the time to show you a graphic demonstration of how this works. Maybe I'll find an overlay and I can just put it from someone else's video. But essentially, these rings are interchangeable. You take this brake pedal that's in the middle apart, and then you can set up the load cells exactly the way that you want them. You can kind of see it when I push it in. But basically what ends up happening is that first, the one on the top is activated, and that's giving you this amount of resistance. The middle acts as like a buffer, and once you finish out the resistance up here, then it goes to this one, which might have a little bit less resistance than the the cell on top versus the one on bottom. You can make them harder, softer. There's so much you can do with this to set up the brake pedals to work exactly the way that you want. I think the other two are very standard, but they do get some good force. Everything has this nice metal finish on it. I've heard people online complaining that the pedals are very rough on their feet. They wanted to put something over it that was rubber just to kind of lessen the impact on their feet while they were using it. These are very like sharp, and maybe if you have sensitive skin, it might kind of hurt you, but for the most part, I haven't really had too many issues. Now, eventually, I did get something to go with this that even further nullified that problem, and that would be race shoes. Now, race shoes are not something that you need by far. There are many different kinds that you get. Honestly, you could probably even just use some very thin, lightweight shoes that make your feet fit between the pedals very easily, so you're not hitting two by accident, and you're good to go. But I found these on sale at a store for maybe $25. They're very lightweight and comfortable. I only wear them when I'm using my race sim, and honestly, I've been very pleasantly surprised at how good they were for this. So this is not something that you need. A lot of people end up using just their socks, but I wanted to go the extra step, and I'm definitely glad I did. So now, just to give you guys a better idea, what I'm going to try to do, and hopefully I'm going to be able to get this correctly in the video, I'm going to try to just show a graphic demonstration of how to fold this chair, and just to show you why I love this so much because of how convenient it is. Right now, I have it set up in the normal mode, with the pedals a little bit on the lower side. I usually like the pedals a little bit higher than that, but I'm going to go ahead and take the pedals and I will put them up into the chair. We're going to fold the whole thing into itself, and then I'll show you that it'll be a little bit more compact. I'll also go ahead and show you the formula mode where you can put the seat all the way down as well. Like I said, this is all kind of like work in progress. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get this to look good because I don't have that much space in my room, but I just wanted everyone to see how versatile this thing is and that there are multiple different configurations. But most importantly, because of the versatility, if you don't have a lot of space in your room for racing rigs, this could be the perfect option for you. It definitely worked for me for quite some time, and I wouldn't even go back to another type of racing rig where you can't do this with. So yeah, the iRacing version of the next level racing chair that I have, I believe it's called the FG Elite. Fantastic. Again, I would never go back to an unfolded version just because I've gotten so used to this setup. Okay, so the way that this video was set up, I started with the audio recording explaining how the folding was going to work, and as I started to do the folding, I had suddenly remembered that the one thing I would be critical of this chair is that although it does eventually get to what you want it to do, it can be a little bit troublesome to fold it in the different ways. What I've usually done is I've set it up the way that I like it, and I only fold it in a very specific way. It's just been so long since I folded it to like that nice, completely folded, minimal space usage mode that I didn't remember how to do that off the top of my head without watching a video. So I ended up just folding it into one of, again, many different configurations. But I have to draw special attention to the joints that this uses. Now, these joints, I've never seen anything like this before. It's kind of like these wavy grooves for two main inner components and two outer components. And when the grooves match up, you can close this latch and then spin the latch around to tighten it, or you can just spin it around when it's open and then try to tighten it. But I will say, when you're doing your folding initially, you definitely want to make sure you know what you're trying to accomplish, and you definitely do not want to let go of the thing when a latch is open, because your whole rig will collapse into itself if you're not careful. Again, you don't want to go ahead and damage any expensive racing equipment. This design definitely got a lot of criticism online, and I can see why. Again, it's a little bit frustrating to set up and get it to do what you want it to do, but I'm telling you, eventually you'll find your flow, and when you can fold it the way that you want to and then unfold it the way that you want to, you're good to go. You don't need to worry about anything else. You have a really cool racing chair. It's just, again, there's going to be a little bit of pains in the beginning. So it was kind of interesting to get reintroduced to that all over again. So another piece of equipment that a lot of race sim enthusiasts use is racing gloves. At first, I thought that that was kind of excessive, but I do kind of see there are different advantages to using racing gloves. Obviously, grip, and you have to think about stuff like sweaty hands. Now, like is going to be kind of a common theme with this video, is that a lot of race sim stuff is kind of on the expensive side, so I just went out and I bought a really cheap pair of gloves. I think these were like $8. They do the trick just because I feel like I have a tiny little bit of extra grip. I could tell they're cheap because they're already starting to wear down and I've only used them for a couple of weeks. But most importantly, they keep my hands sweat-free, airy, and I'm able to just hold the wheel without having any other kind of issues or distractions. You could totally go for the $30, $40, $50 professional race sim gloves, which are, I'm sure, great, but for me, I went the budget option. So that is my race sim equipment setup. I hope you enjoyed it. Now, a couple of other things I wanted to mention. Again, while we're in this video talking about my experience with racing sims, my evolution of the games that I played starts with a game called Initial D. That really got me into the idea of playing a car racing game with an actual race pedal and wheel and stuff. And those games were a lot of fun. They were very arcadey, but there was what I thought was at least a tiny-ish bit of realism, more so than just a regular racing game, maybe Need for Speed or something like that. It definitely gave me the taste, the yearning to try something like this, which then led me eventually to pick up a wheel. We did a video a long time ago at PAX East 2020 where we interviewed a guy by the name of Kevin from the iRacing booth, and shortly after that I was like, you know, I'm just really getting into motorsports. I'm really enjoying watching NASCAR and watching different kinds of like Formula 1 and stuff like that, and I heard there's all these people that play a very close version of that on their computers and their consoles, and I want to do that too. So I went ahead and got my first piece of race sim equipment. That was the Thrustmaster starter kit that I showed you guys earlier, and from there it just kept going. I got it into Dirt Rally, then Gran Turismo, which was a no-brainer because it was already a peripheral that connected to my PlayStation. Then my buddy Paul gifted me a copy of Assetto Corsa. Thank you, Paul. And from there, I finally made my way onto iRacing itself, which now I'm pretty much exclusively doing. But to be honest, I had some of a desire to go back to Gran Turismo or Assetto, Dirt Rally, Wreckfest, etc. Also, I'm always on the lookout for trying to find ways to play classic arcade racing games like Daytona USA, like Outrun, from the comfort of my own home and with a race wheel. So if there's some way I could figure out how to do that, I would definitely play those arcadey games as well. Overall, from the racing rig that I had before, which was like, I think an $80 Amazon one, I'll try to put a picture of it here, this was a vast improvement. And the deciding factor for this racing chair was the fact that I can have all of my equipment on it left, like attached, and I'm able to fold and put away the chair. I didn't always have a good amount of space. More recently, I finally have a space for all of my content creation that I'm very comfortable with, and I'm very appreciative of what I'm able to do now. So having a chair like this, I can pretty much set up a race wheel stream or even a video like this in about 10 or 15 minutes, and I can fold this back up and put it away in the corner, and my room is all open again. So I'm really happy with what I can do with this chair. In terms of future equipment that I would like, you know, the common theme with race sim equipment is that it's all just really expensive, and it's not all necessary. There are a few upgrades that I would like to get. For instance, direct drive wheel is definitely on my list. They're just very expensive right now, and I'm having some difficulty deciding which one I should get, mostly from like a compatibility standpoint. Also, you know, value for your money, what kind of force feedback you're gonna get with it, because they have different like limits of their force feedback. So there's a lot to go in for what else I want, but this right here pretty much is peak race sim equipment for myself. I don't really think I needed too much better than this. Of course, that would be fantastic, but right now this is really good. All, like I said, I really want is just, I would like to get a better wheel, and I think I'm pretty much solid. I could also use a handbrake, but the truth is that I really needed a handbrake more when I was doing a lot of Assetto Corsa videos and streams. With Assetto Corsa, I was doing some like drifting stuff, and for that you really need the e-brake. But when it comes to the NASCAR, Formula One, Mazda MX-5, like when I'm thinking about all the stuff that I do on a regular basis now in like iRacing, you don't really need an e-brake, and that's fine. That's just money I don't have to spend. That's space that I get to save on this chair for the time being. One other thing to make a note of is that a couple of weeks ago you guys saw I also got a VR headset. That's like another thing that people will do for their race sims. You know, there's all sorts of crazy levels of immersion that you can take this to. VR was something that I thought I never really needed, but I got very curious, and I got more and more curious, and when I finally saw an opportunity to get a VR headset, which I kind of wanted anyway, I went for it. Now, unfortunately, iRacing is kind of weird, and I can't set it up properly. Every time I tried, haven't had any luck with getting the actual immersion part to work with the VR headset. But that being said, I actually will be able to do that one day, and I'm looking forward to it. Whenever it is that I'm going to get to set it up, that's going to be fantastic. But for now, sorry guys, I haven't had a chance to really set up the VR with this, but I'm looking forward to doing that. That will be a very interesting stream. Definitely check out Mashthestampede on Twitch. One day I promise I'll get that working. That's gonna do it for today's video, guys. We will definitely be sure, undoubtedly 100%, get some more iRacing and other types of racing sim content on for the channel. Please give us some time. I'll definitely do a video when the season 3 update is ready. I'll try to find other things that we could talk about, and if we get any future equipment, I will also make sure to unbox it. Like I said before, I'm sorry that I didn't get to unbox everything here. I should have, I just didn't always have the time. So when I got the pedals, when I got the shifter, couldn't make a proper video about it. That's why I wanted to do this. But when I get my direct drive wheel in 7 million years, or whenever I can afford it, I will definitely do a video unboxing that. I'll talk about what my experiences have been overall, and then yeah, and then who knows, maybe I'll get some other equipment. Maybe I'll get a butt kicker. Maybe I'll get 3 monitors, which I guess if I have VR, I don't need that. My friend Paul has some interesting things cooking up in terms of like different vibration units for the pedals and for the shifter and for parts of the chair. I mean, there's so many different options. As long as you have an open mind and a big open wallet, you could totally do anything with sim racing. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments below, hey, do you have any of this equipment? Do you think that maybe I could do something else different? Maybe I should have different pedals or this or that. Probably not, because it's all Thrustmaster, so it lines up. But yeah, let us know in the comments, what's your racing rig? What do you think of mine? And what games do you play? Do you play iRacing, Assetto? maybe something else, maybe something more arcadey. Let us know in the comments below. And until next time, we will catch you on the next video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Helps out the channel. And we'll see you next time.